Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Mango Tea Podcast. This is our first one in 2025. And also, we're celebrating 5 years? It's been 5 years since we kind of started. Yeah, kind of crazy.
Five
Um,
whole years.
yeah, if you are not familiar with us, we are a news and culture podcast for the Caribbean diaspora. And we're not a red pill or blue pill podcast. We drink tea, rum, and water in that order. So we're very bipartisan. But if you are prescribed medical prescription medication by a doctor, please take your medication. Tea cannot solve all the issues. It solves some, but not all of it. We are bi-weekly. We talk tea about the Caribbean because a lot of us are connected to the Caribbean by blood, by love, and all those things. And we want to make sure that everyone in the diaspora knows what's happening beyond the gossip. So today I brought in a very special guest co-host. I met her a couple years ago in Brooklyn, and I just learned so much about Trinidad, where she's from, by way of Brooklyn. Everyone, please welcome Ariel to today's recording.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, Ariel, what's your favorite mango? We're gonna start hot.
Oh, I like a nice ripe Julie mango. Like, whoo, from the tree. Just rinse it off. Mm, mm.
Did you
So
ever
good.
climb the tree to get it?
The way my clumsiness is set up, it's not recommended for me to climb anything. However, uncles, older cousins, just get that for me, please.
Wow, that is great to know. All right, I love that.
hmm
We're right here. We see each other because I love all mangoes.
I try
So
to steal a mango and bring it back to the US at least once a year. Never really works, but I still try.
yeah. Wait, did I ever tell you? I don't know if I ever told you this. Okay, once I went to Puerto Rico and I was like, okay, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, so I should be able to bring back mangoes.
Is it domestic flight?
Yes, they stopped me at TSA and they said, you cannot bring these mangoes. I sat there and ate all six mangoes
Jody.
because no,
All six is crazy. And I know you didn't have no knife and forks. I know you just.
I think I had like a little napkin from somewhere, made it work.
No mango go to waste.
No mango will go to waste. Girl Guides honor. All right, so we have a few things we want to talk about in today's podcast. You would think that it's the start of the year, everyone wants to be calm, but no. But before
Calm.
we get into some mess, let's talk Caribbean excellence, or as I like to call this segment, Ariel, don't hate me, Talawa Inde Modakont. I'm
You and
working.
this
I'm working.
accent
I'm working. I'm working.
got to go.
I haven't been practicing the accent in a minute. I need to. But this is our Caribbean excellence because we want to celebrate us because we are what amazing. So this week, the now former U.S. President Joe Biden did some pardons, and he pardoned two Caribbean born nationals. The first was Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who is considered the father of Black excellence and really an inspiration to many. He got a pardon for false imprisonment, false conviction, all the things. If you don't know who Marcus Garvey is, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You've been learning a lot about him, and you should. He's an important figure in global Black history. He's the kind of the first prominent Black nationalist globally, at least like in the U.S. too. Um, he was considered a great leader because he gave Black people a sense of pride and dignity, and he brought like ownership on a massive scale because they had like immediately I can think of the Black Star Line, And even
Mm-hmm.
today, that's represented today in the Ghanaian flag. The black star is a representation of that black star line and that black
That I
X.
did not know.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he inspired many civil rights leaders like the Caribbean Zone, Malcolm X, and also Martin Luther King. And he was also really a key influence in the start of the Rastafari movement in Jamaica. He's considered a messiah, or like a messenger to show that like Haile Selassie is the messiah and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
love that. The second person that was given a pardon was Ravi Ragbor. He is an immigrant rights activist in the New York, New Jersey area. He was convicted on a nonviolent fraud conviction, and he was set to be deported. And he's been, I think this was in like 2001, and then he's been fighting for deportation since. I think at one point he got like caught by ICE, and
Mm-hmm.
he was in some like he was in Alabama and I think New York in some real deplorable conditions, and he's been fighting the deportation conviction ever since. And now he's kind of been saved by the Biden pardon, and he's still alive today if you don't know that. But he's um he's been a really huge voice for immigrants in New York and New Jersey, which is needed more now than ever.
So two things. One, with Marcus Garvey being posthumously, I truly don't know how to say that word, but you know what I mean. Pardon. I feel like there should be some effect because he's gone. So it's like, pardon, okay, but is it really gonna do an effect for him and his family? I feel like maybe there's a way that maybe his family can get some type of not
I mean,
reparations, but like some type of
yeah,
effect that comes with the pardon.
they've been asking. I'm actually surprised it came this late. I would have expected, everyone expected everything of Obama, but like I would have expected Obama to do the pardon. Um, but I think the family came out with a statement because they've been fighting for him to get pardoned for decades, almost actually, yeah, for decades actually.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
actually crazy.
yeah,
Obama couldn't do too much. They say he's trying to change the world.
that's true. But I think it's interesting because when I was growing up in Jamaica, so he's Marcus Garvey is Jamaica's first official national hero. When we had the post independence thing and all that, he was our first national hero. And I remember
Isn't
in
the airport after him?
no, it's Norman Manley and Sangsters, who is not a national hero but a great prime minister. But Marcus Garvey, like we were taught about how there's a song that I remember singing in like grade 4, and it was like um, Marcus Garvey. He gave black men the dream or a dream, or he made black men dream or something like that. So it was kind of like, oh, it's just like foolish history. But then I think when I was in school in the States, I realized the the impact that Marcus
Mm-hmm.
Garvey had globally. I don't think that was taught to us with emphasis when I was in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, but here it was like, oh wow, like that's where I learned about the I think it's in college that I learned about it. Like the black star in the Ghanaian flag is representative of that black star line, which I thought that was dope. Yeah. What was your second
Do
point?
Do you think that now that we have a new president and a whole new policy being in place, that they're gonna reverse it right back?
I
Like, oh,
don't
JK.
I know. I don't think so, but it's almost what's the word, performative kind of, because like okay, they pardoned Garvey and they pardoned Ragbeer, but then like immediately after I started detaining people all over the place. Like I read somewhere that there were ICE agents went to an elementary school.
Oh my God, I saw that
Yeah, that's
in
a little,
I think Chicago, and
yeah.
they refused to let them in, and then ICE claims that it wasn't their agents. So like, who are these people, and why are they trying to come to this school? Also, there have been sightings all around Brooklyn and in Harlem as well, of ice trucks driving around.
Wait, let me tell you how that's affected me. Okay, this is going to seem really selfish, but it's concerning. So, my favorite Jamaican takeout spot that I go to all the time. So, there is a woman in there. I call her Bronin because she brown. Jamaican.
Hmm.
That's a term Jamaicans use, bronin. And one of the reasons why I love going there is because of the food tastes good, one. And then two, when I ask for oxtail gravy, she does not give me attitude. She goes to the oxtail, she takes the spoon, she doesn't skim from the top and give me oil. She goes down deep, deep, siphon off some meat and pours it on the rice and peas.
That's
And
love.
some of the if I get fried chicken, like, she pours it on
Hmm.
there. It was like the spot, it's usually packed. It wasn't as packed, but again, it was like a Sunday morning. And she wasn't there, and it was somebody else. I am just a little concerned. I didn't talk to them about anything, but I'm just a little concerned about my favorite server.
I was like, how is this connected to you? Okay, I see it now.
Yeah, because I feel like I think being within the community, you can tell sometimes how people act, that they're undocumented at times.
Hmm.
Um, I got the sense, and I never need to bring it up because it's none of my business, and she's doing her job. But I'm concerned, and I think we we live in a very we live in Brooklyn, and there's still some Caribbean people here. As much as they try to push us out with gentrification, I'm just concerned about our people that may be here. So
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers, toes,
yeah,
hair, like anything you can cross
but,
it.
yeah. But speaking of the new administration, so for our first segment, we're calling it "Something is Brewing," and it's not ginger tea. So this is, and actually, I have an update too from what I we had discussed. So to give some background, America has a new regime and a new president. All the president is Donald Trump, and all houses of government are effectively his party, or he controls them. And he's keeping a lot of his campaign promises early, like with the ICE detentions of immigrants, rounding up people and deporting them. He was even deporting, I was reading something, and he was deporting immigrants on military planes to Colombia. So over the
Wow.
last couple of years, the southern border of the United States has been ripe with controversy. People have been crossing the border illegally. And they're immigrants from the Caribbean, South America, and China. Nobody's talking about the China part, but there's a lot of immigrants coming from China crossing the southern border.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
in all this chaos, because today he announced, like, Colombia pushed back, and now Trump is saying, I'm going to tariff your ass. Tax it. So that's brewing. But what's really brewing is Venezuela. So Venezuela is an interesting country. Well, while you may not consider it, most people don't consider it a Caribbean country. I do, in some essence, because they share a border with they're on the same curve as, like, Guyana and Suriname, which are CARICOM countries, and they're on the Caribbean coast, and they have large oil deposits, and they do a lot of oil trading and gas trading with the U.S. I think they're the U.S.'s largest supplier, or something along those lines. So their president is Nicolas Maduro, who is, I'm not putting this lightly, I feel like is a little loose, like some of the screws are loose. He is he's kind of dictatorial. He is dictatorial.
I think a little crazy has to be a requirement to be a. A leader for a country these days.
That's fair. You got to be narcissistic and crazy. So Nicolas Maduro, he just got sworn in for his third term, even though he did not win the election. Um,
Sounds familiar.
and he's been known for a lot of human rights abuses, vote rigging, and drug smuggling. So during his, I guess his like inauguration speech, he said if the US doesn't stop messing with Venezuela, he is going to be forced to liberate Puerto Rico from the US. So if you don't know, Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, and I think a couple years ago they voted on whether or not to like become an independent country, and they overwhelmingly said no, we'll rather stay as a territory of the US, which
Poor
I
Puerto
get.
Rico is like, now why am I in
That's literally what the governor of Puerto Rico said. Like, why are we?
it?
How did we get here? Right? But it's like it's a couple things like on each side. From side Arepa, mispronounced
That's
Venezuela has
accent.
cited, right? The largest oil reserves and the largest supplies of crude oil, right? They give to the
Mm.
US. However, over 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country.
Half of them in
Saying,
Trinidad.
right? Didn't they say that like Trinidad is about to like, they about to make like Spanish the
Yeah.
because there's so many, yeah. And isn't there like a like a Spanish soca
I
artist
was
too?
just about to mention that somebody let out a Trini Venezuelan soca Spanish song. Girl, give it 5 years. It's gonna be a whole different Trinidad.
I feel like yeah, yeah. And then okay, so
Hmm.
that side Arepa, and then side McDonald's. The U.S. wants to lower the cost of gas and oil, but they also want to kick out illegal immigrants. And I feel like there has to be some concession somewhere. I think one
What would
Madeira.
be the happy medium? The answer does not exist.
I I feel like okay, Trump and Maduro are there, right? I feel like honestly, I feel like Trump got to be like, all right, um I want to lower gas prices. It was a campaign thing. I get the cheapest, most affordable because he's allegedly like a really good deal maker. So I think he just has to like, all right, you if you I'll keep your 8 billion people that left your terrible regime if you give me oil and gas for like cents on the dollar.
I don't know. Because kicking people out is his number one priority. I don't know if he's gonna bend. Maybe he might be like, I'll kick out only half of them. But he's kicking out some of them at least.
Yeah. But here's the thing though. I feel like America is a country where you need somebody at the bottom for the system to work. And uh, people may not like this, but they've always said that America is the land of immigrants, and it is. A lot of like innovations have come from immigrants. A
That's
lot
how
of,
America started.
yeah,
The people that don't belong here.
right? They just, and they came illegally. They came illegally.
Hmm.
So I feel like I feel like on this issue, he's gonna he's gonna have some
Pushback.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be like a playing of the conscious of the mind or something because like you can't I feel like you can't have it both ways and they're both really neurotic individuals. So, yeah, but I feel like it's this is going to have ripple effects around other Caribbean countries as well because one, I think outside of the US and Venezuela, the first country I think of is Trinidad. Um which we'll talk about later. But you guys are being like, I feel like it's like every every day I see something about like migrants coming over illegally from Venezuela. Where do
Yeah.
they stay when they're in Trinidad?
Where don't they stay? They all over, girl. It's to the point where like the last time I went, I think I'm seeing like Venezuelan owning shops, and I know they're not here legally, so like they're having businesses, and I'm telling you, they are here to stay. Good
You know,
food though.
it's always the food that I feel like that's another thing about my immigrants. Like the food is always like, look at England. Like, would you go to England and be like, oh, I'm about to eat some like mash
Beans on
and
toast.
you know the price of egg? I saw something. Someone sent me something. They were like, the price of a carton of egg is like 18.99. It's like ridiculous.
In the UK?
I know in the US,
Oh,
and she was
oh,
like,
that's so
you may need to
crazy.
start eating like beans on toast, and I was like, absolutely not. I have my limit.
So I draw the line.
I feel like eggs could be like $100 a carton. I still would not eat that. Beans on toast, porridge, oats. We can get our protein from other places, but yeah, yeah. But like, but also like the thing with Colombia happening today, and Trump saying, "Oh, 25% tariffs on all Colombian goods." That's going to be passed to the consumer. That's what usually happens.
That
So,
coffee, man.
mhm. And then Mexico, like I most of the avocados in the US, if it doesn't come from California, it comes from Mexico. I love my avocados or pear, depending on, how you call
Hmm.
it. I don't know what I'm gonna do if it goes back, if it like shoots through the roof.
Yeah, you gonna have to same way how you try to smuggle mangoes when you go on vacation, you gonna have to smuggle avocados. There's one more thing to the list.
You know what? You could. I don't. Wait, but wait. You can bring over mango, but you can't have the seed. So if you like cut it up,
Cut it up.
yeah,
But
and
then
put it.
boo.
I
That's
know
no
it tastes
fun.
so. Yeah, but you get the taste of mango. I don't know if I could do that with avocado. Like cut up avocado and bring it on a
Once you
plate.
cut it up, that's it. It's already
Yeah,
brown.
yeah. So it's gonna get. I think it's gonna get testy very quickly.
Hmm.
Mhm. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is the upcoming elections in the Caribbean. Most Caribbean countries are on the parliamentary British system, so they have elections every term. A singular term is like 5 years, so they need to have it within 5 years. So there's a lot of countries that have elections this year, and I want to talk about it. So we have, well, actually, I categorize them. So let's talk about the golden age home. Um, St. Vincent. So the Prime Minister, Ralph Gonzalez, who is 78 years old, is looking to get reelected for his sixth term. If
Six
he
term
is
is
reelected,
crazy.
if he is reelected at the end of his term, he is going to be 83 years old.
Mm. How old is Trump? Ain't Trump that age?
Yeah, I think he's like,
I know he pushing 80.
yeah, he is pushing. I think he's like 78. I think he is 78. Let me check.
Yeah. Mm. I don't know. I think there should be a cap on how old you can be when you run for these positions.
Trump is
Because you know
78 years old.
the brain starts to go at a certain point.
Hmm. I mean, there are a lot of medications coming out to fight dementia and Alzheimer's, but they don't have anybody else in St. Vincent that can run. That's crazy. Six, sir. I do you have grandchildren? Like,
My
do you, yeah.
so it's funny that like when Biden was in office, people were calling him like too old to run. He's losing his mind. He's senile. Blah blah blah. I think Joe Biden right now is the age that both the Prime Minister and State Vincent and Trump is going to be at the end of their term. So it's like you were calling him old, yet you're about to be in the same predicament
It's like
when you're in office.
I don't get it. Like what? Like I get like okay, you're controlling the money, but like, isn't there somebody else that's younger and just ready to take over? That's insane to me.
Workaholics.
I get it. I get that we're workaholics, and I get that like in the Caribbean you have access to more organic food, and you're active and you may live longer. But sir, give it to
It's
somebody else,
it's
please.
either that or the money must be that good.
But like, you have been in office, you have been elected 5 times. How much more money you want, Tiff? And like once you get into those like circles, and you have access to business, you can like negotiate for like private.
Oh, absolutely. But Jody,
Why?
you gotta remember, there's never such a thing as too much money. So if he can do 10 terms, he gonna do 10 terms.
I want to see. I don't think that they've like set a date yet, but I'm gonna look into this because like, sir, please, and the people of St. Vincent, let me know. I get like, okay, 3 times a charm, 5 times a charm, but like, why would you vote for him again? Just please let me know. All right. So let's go into our big oil money countries. So these two countries I mentioned earlier, Guyana and Suriname, they have elections this year. Starting with Guyana. So the last time they had an election, they didn't call the winner for I think 8 months in 2020.
Which is insane.
It
Because
went
what do
to
you
like
do throughout those 8 months? You just sit in limbo?
that's what they did. I think it went to like Caribbean Court of Justice, all this stuff. So it's President Irfan Ali versus Aubrey Norton. We'll see. Traditionally, like the ruling party that's currently in under President Ali is the PPP. They're
Hmm.
traditionally Indians, and then Aubrey Norton is under the PNCR, which is traditionally Black people.
Sounds
And
just like
there are
Trinidad.
yes, I feel like Trinidad and Guyana are the same with like the race relations and all that.
Hmm.
2020, their elections, it got really racial and messy. So what's at stake is who's going to hold the purse strings, because Guyana is expected to become um, the 29th strongest economy in the world by I think 2030 or 2050. So
Mm.
they're deciding on like who controls the oil, how they're going to do the economy, and how do they diversify the non-oil sector. I think I have spoken to a lot of people, including Guyanese people, and they were like, Guyana is boring. There is nothing to do
I
there.
was
All
so ready to say that. When you talk about diversify the non-oil sector, I hope they put some attractions, some activities to do, something to bring people. Because it's only oil, waterfalls, and gold. That's it.
and do you know that at one point, I don't know if it's still true, but Guyana had the highest suicide rate in the world?
I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah. But I mean,
mm-mm.
they're getting money now because I think a couple months ago, the president was like, okay, the economy did great. All Guyanese citizens are getting 500, I think it was 500 Guyanese, I think $500 each. Yeah.
If
And I was
only.
and I was like, isn't the infrastructure in the country terrible? Why aren't you putting that money towards building infrastructure? Because I feel
Because the
like
people need it more.
all that's going to do is drive up inflation.
$500. I hope some other world leaders take notes and give their residents $500 too. Shoot.
I feel like when you give I feel like that it just makes things worse. Give people tax credits
I mean, we're
instead
not
of
gonna
giving
have the
cash.
IRS soon anyway, so what is that gonna make?
Mm, that's true. All right, let's go to Suriname. Suriname is, for those that don't know, it's on the South American continent. It's right next to Guyana. So the incumbent president, I'm gonna butcher this man's name, Shan Shad Santoki, yep, is seeking re-election after passing a lot of economic and election reforms recently. So what's at stake is money and a global proxy war. So, from a money perspective, they just discovered huge oil and gas reserves, and the country is expected to make between 16 to 26 billion dollars from this
Ooh,
oil. Yep, yep. Anyone
mm.
that's listening from Suriname, call me. I'm single.
We could be friends.
I want to be a part of the growth.
That's
One Caribbean,
insane.
right?
Ooh.
So the oil exploration is being done by a French-owned company called Total Energies. I feel like anything with France being involved in any non-Western country is always a disaster. So that's something to look out for.
Mm.
But the proxy war is, so President Santoki, he wants to deepen ties with South America, the US, and Europe, while his opponent, who's a former president, Desi Utarski, I butchered that, wants to, he's very pro China. So you have the West
Mm.
versus China, right?
It's
Yeah,
always versus China.
always. Because I mean, I feel like half, three quarters of the Caribbean's assets, China owns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember actually one time I went to Jamaica with my nieces, and across the street was some, like, I don't know what it was, but there were a lot of like Chinese workers there, and there was Chinese writing on the wall, and they were taking Mandarin at the time, and they were able to translate it. Yes. I forgot what it said. I don't think it was anything disastrous. Otherwise, I would have remembered it. But it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Still.
yeah, because doesn't the Chinese government own, or they're leasing Pitch Lake for like 100 years or something like that?
Girl, that's a good question.
So, but I feel like with the proxy war and oil, Guyana, Guyana's kind of just there, and then you have Venezuela with the whole Trump proxy war thing, and then like
Yeah, there's a lot
immigration
just
happening.
going on in that one concentrated area.
When you season meat and you're about to mix it up. That's happening right now. It just mix up. So I I don't know how that's gonna go. I feel like it's I don't know how it's gonna go. I think that's one to watch too, because I think the oil money and greed and people, they do stupid things. All three of those together. So I'm gonna see what's gonna marinate there. All right. So for our next section of countries that are have election coming up, we have two very special countries. One is Jamaica. My
Bad man thing.
my please sorry. But that's interesting. All right. So Andrew Holness, who is the incumbent, he's been in power for a couple of years now. He's going up against Mark Golding in this year. I don't think they've officially named the date for the election. The top issues right now are crime and the economy. And as they say, some things will never change. I feel like crime and the economy in Jamaica is always a thing for the election. So, as with most countries in the world, Jamaica's economy has been shit. Literally. I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
so hard to live. And I always tell people that living in the Caribbean, it's more expensive than living anywhere else because they import a lot of things and they add like taxes and tariffs and all this foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
The crime is out of this world. I actually it's not bad, but it's bad. It's really bad because I think speaking of bad man thing, actually I think it was last week or sometime this month, uh, a a bad man or a gunman or a don, depending on where you're from Spanish Town, murdered or was killed in a clash with police, and the area where he's from, Spanish Town, is now chaos, which is like kind of normal when dons get killed. But he was like a really powerful one, allegedly. Um, I think the only thing that I'm, excuse me, worried about is if I don't know if people remember when Dudus or Christopher Koch
Mm-hmm.
was apprehended by, he was supposed to get extradited to the US, and like all of Kingston, actually most of the island was like under siege basically. That was scary. Because I had a lot of family members that lived in Kingston, friends and family members that lived in Kingston at the time, and I was just worried. But so we'll see what happens. But crime has been like, it's been kind of ridiculous in Jamaica. And then
All I
finally we
know is
get
that.
to,
Hello.
oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
saying all I know is that ever since I was born, growing up, I just know Jamaica was a gunman place. I hope that I am alive to see Jamaica be a better, safer environment for all involved one day.
I mean, I feel like, okay, yes, crime has always been an issue, but crime has always been an issue everywhere, right? Like I actually feel like the US is more dangerous than Jamaica in some aspects.
Hmm.
Because I feel like in Jamaica you will not hear of a school getting shot up, like ever. Maybe like I know there have been incidences outside the school, but like, and it was like one time, I think, one time. But like someone getting shot, someone going into the school and shooting up the school, no.
Mm.
So I don't think it's not gonna stop me from going to, it's definitely not gonna stop me from going to Jamaica. Crime is bad in Trinidad. You gonna stop with Trinidad?
Nope, going this weekend.
But speaking of Trinidad, Trinidad also has an election coming up. And I feel like of all the Caribbean countries, Trinidad is really going to be the more explosive one because of the people involved. So to set the stage, in January, earlier in January, current Prime Minister Keith Rowley was like, "All right, I'm 75 years old. I've been doing public service for 45 years. I'm going to do something. Retire." He was going to retire at 75 years old, which
And
honestly
nobody
deserves a
saw
hand
that
clap
coming.
because thank you. So he announced that if election isn't called by a certain time, Stuart Young is gonna. I think he's the current energy minister. He's gonna become the leader of the PNM, the ruling the party that they're under. And then the challenger is going to be, I'm gonna butcher her name, Kamla Prasad Bashir. Did I get it right?
Oh, not bad.
Okay. All right. Let's call her Kamla. And she is kind of a controversial figure. I remember in the 2020 elections for Trinidad, she was kind of encouraging. Trinidad has a long history of kind of race clashes between Indians and
Hmm.
blacks, and in, in some aspects, I feel like she was baiting it and encouraging it. Also, she said some things about Biden recently, and she's a very, very big MAGA supporter. That caused some controversy on Twitter. And then I was reading a couple editorials, and in one editorial, they said she is a consecutive loser because she lost two straight general elections. But crazy.
Absolutely insane.
But I think yes, but I think something that's an issue is the crime in Trinidad is crazy, like insane.
So
And
I'm
it's
wondering
really
if
interesting that like, oh, go ahead.
him stepping down has to do with the crime because when he announced that he was stepping down, Trinidad was in a state of emergency because I think there was just so many murders happening in the span of like a month or something. So I wonder if he got called out low key and was just like, all right, clearly you're not doing what you need to do. You don't need to run again.
I mean, it's that's an actually valid, very very valid point because, but like, hasn't Trinidad been in state of emergency before?
Yeah, but
What like I feel like yeah, I feel like it's interesting because I feel like when you take a step back and go into the region, I think he's one of the stronger political leaders in CARICOM and the larger Caribbean, and who kind of has a backbone.
yeah, but they're
Um,
also thieves at the end of the
but
day.
that's true. But like also Trinidad is I feel like it's like a hotbed. It's small, but it's a hotbed of like issues because you have people running away from Venezuela. You have it's a huge like drug trafficking port for the trans what is it transatlantic the drug trade. Um, yeah, and then the crime be crazy. I read something recently about like a toddler being burnt in his house. Or no, that was a
Whoa.
toddler. Uh, like a repeat offender. Like it's kind of it's very crazy. So I'm interested to see like what's gonna happen with the um what's it called the national state of emergency. Whew, that took a while. And then also the state of emergency during Carnival this year, which I think is going to be. But haven't they had state of emergencies during Carnival before?
I don't think it was to this level. Uh, but
Okay.
they still move in carnival as normal. So I guess the state of emergency can't be too bad anymore. They're not imposing no like curfews or nothing like that.
Okay. Well, we'll see. So that's really the election spice of the Caribbean. I think the themes are oil, money, and crime, which honestly is the same thing that we were talking about in 2020. Jesus. I just think I always say this. The Caribbean needs better leaders. Why is everyone so mediocre and basic?
Yeah, what we gotta do to get like unanimously get everyone who's not doing what they're supposed to do out, so that we can have our countries prosper. You know, what needs to happen?
Because it makes no. I feel like for Trinidad, it makes no sense that in 2020, like you guys have Pitch Lake that a byproduct is asphalt, which is used to build roads. It makes no sense that you guys have Pitch Lake and you have potholes in the country. That makes
It
no
makes
sense to me.
it makes no sense that we have Pitch Lake and the area in South where Pitch Lake is. We just got a highway within the last 2 to 5 years down there, so it makes no sense.
That's wild. That's wild. Like I remember my first time in Trinidad and I was like, "Oh wow, you guys have amazing roads compared to Jamaica." Which cuz honestly in Jamaica they called a national emergency because there's so many potholes everywhere. Um And like, there have been, I kid you not, there have been potholes in certain areas that are still here today. I remember when I was like 5, there being a pothole, like a huge pothole, like it's a pond in the middle in the road, and it's still there to this day, almost 25 years later.
That's absolutely insane.
But
Did it grow? Is it the same size pothole?
it's the same size. I and like to drive it, you have to go like on like a wall banking, but there's no like it's on a hill and there's no railing, so you have to be like super careful
I
or
would never
you'll
drive to
plummet to your death.
Jamaica.
I
Mm-mm.
mean, I'm gonna conquer it one day. All right, Ariel, what's your favorite tea?
Oh, I've been preparing for this question, right? I wish I had like a speaker with me, but for kicks and giggles, I'm gonna say my favorite tea is cocoa tea. Plays cuss song in the background. But no, for real.
Are you
My
indicating
favorite
that's your
tea.
supporter? That's who you're.
Oh, absolutely. That song, he did that. But my favorite tea, I like a little lemon, right? The lemon ginger, squeeze of fresh lemon in it, 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. That's the perfect tea. Can't go wrong with the classics.
Do you put anything? Do you put rum in it or punch in?
No, 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 no. I don't know. I can't drink hot liquor.
Really, I love it. It's soothing.
Soothing.
I
I'm gonna
mean,
go
I'm
to sleep
drinking
for
hot
like
liquor
10
right now.
hours.
It's amazing. It
Mm-mm.
reminds me of childhood. I love it. Well,
Your mother used to
Ariel,
put
it's been
liquor
a pleasure
in your
having you.
tea when you were young?
My grandparents did actually,
Oh.
but it wasn't um like oh, drink some tea with some liquor. It was like I was sick and they would give
Mm.
me. I mean, they wouldn't call it tea either. It would just be like
Here's your medicine.
lime, honey, garlic. Yeah, then put like hot, like to break up like whatever was in my chest, or
Mm-hmm.
and then put rum in it. Actually, that's one of the excuses I use to like ask family members to give me rum in college. It's like, oh, I'm really sick. I need to make this tea. Yeah, and it worked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Ariel, thank you for joining. And to our listeners
Thank you for
everywhere,
having
thank
me.
you for joining us today. More Mango Tea Podcasts to come. Follow us on Mango Tea Podcasts on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok to come, and YouTube. Thank you for joining. See you soon.
Bye.